Mike Hawes is the SMMT's chief executive.
To the global, you think about 10 years, the global financial crisis, the UK industry came out really strongly and really quickly. So we had a lot of investment. Then we had Brexit. So we always knew there was going to be a downturn, but that downturn was longer and deeper as a result of that uncertainty. Just when you get the uncertainty, you can see your deals on the table, to be able to attract that investment. You have a pandemic when everyone's hauling back their investment, saying, hang on, we need to wait and see what the future's looking at the next few months. So that's why, that is lost time. And we need to make sure that the UK is competitive to be able to attract, not just in terms of existing technologies, but new technologies as well.
Well, let's talk about those new technologies, because electrification is the big thing. Everyone's relying on semiconductor chips to make that happen. The UK relies heavily on China for batteries, for battery metals, for key components. So do you see that relationship strengthening, or does the UK need to get more in the driving seat?
That's a really difficult one, because global demand for batteries, the constituent elements that go into batteries, is going to continue to escalate, because the entire world is moving towards battery electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles and those. And China probably had a head start in that regard. So I think what the UK wants to do is make sure that we continue to make vehicles here and make batteries here. Where the constituent cells come from still will, I think, largely be in the short to medium term, China, Asia Pacific countries and so forth. But assembling them here so that they can be moved quickly into production plants, I think is the short to medium term goal. That's why we want to see more gigafactories created here. The relationship with China is always going to be a critical one. China is the biggest new car market. It is the biggest manufacturing destination. And so it's obviously an attractive market. And, interestingly, it was good to see exports to China actually went up last year, despite, global difficulties in other markets.
And speaking of those other markets, the government has ambitions to be the leading European market in electric vehicles, probably after Norway. So what is it going to take to ensure UK automotive manufacturing stays competitive?
Yeah, it's not so much once in a generation, it's once in a century technological transition. So you need to make sure as a sector we're part and parcel of that move. That means making sure we're competitive. We have a labour force which is already flexible and highly skilled. We need to upskill them and transition them into battery electric vehicle manufacturer. We need to have a framework which attracts that inward investment. And there are some packages, especially around super credits, which can really help in that regard. We need to make sure that we're, on the front foot abroad, advertising the opportunities the UK has, because I still think the UK is a great place to make vehicles. We have a growing market. 1 in 10 new cars sold last year was electric. That is increasing rapidly. And that is clearly the government's intention. By 2030 to 2035, we'll be out of internal combustion engines and new car sales. We need to make sure we're making the vehicles here in the UK, because UK customers will be buying them in increasing numbers.
I've got one more for you. What about energy prices? I mean, not the industry's biggest cost, but pretty key.
It's a key cost. The main input cost in terms of manufacturing is obviously the parts, materials, components that go in, your labour costs, and then probably energy. Energy costs are spiking, and that does threaten to undermine the competitiveness of plants. Other plants around Europe and beyond are facing equally tough price rises. So it's not, we're not the only one affected, but we go into this crisis with amongst the highest energy costs of our competitor markets in Europe. So we need to see what we can do to mitigate some of those rises. We're talking to government. We are a relatively high energy user. It takes a lot of, electricity, both to heat and to operate a plant. So any mechanism that can help mitigate or smooth over those price increases over 18 to 24 months, I think would be very helpful and allow us to maintain the competitiveness that we're seeking.